Dr. Gershon Baskin, a person with connections in Gaza, who also was instrumental in the last hostage deal with Hamas, the one involved Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit, in exchange for Hamas leadership of today. Thank you very much for joining us. Good evening.
Good evening. Shalom Yaakov.
First of all, do you have any information or confirmation regarding any deal in the process?
But the information that I want to give is that everything that's said about the deal is part of the negotiations. Let's put it this way. The negotiations are at the absolute highest level with the absolute highest degree of secrecy, which means that those people who know are not talking and those people who don't know are talking. And the talk that we just heard and all the talk we've been hearing for the last weeks has to be taken as part of the context of the negotiations, of the psychological warfare, or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with reality. It is clear that Israel wants a larger deal. Israel wants all the women, all the children, all the elderly, the wounded, and the sick to be released. It is known that Israel is holding 39 Palestinian women prisoners and another 4 administrative detainees, as well as 170 minors, 17, 16, 15-year-olds, as well as another 20 administrative detainees. All of the women and all of the minor prisoners in Israel are not important Hamas people. None of them have murdered Israelis. They're all from the West Bank. A deal could be made like that, but it's much more complex than just releasing women and minor prisoners from Israel. We're talking about a ceasefire that Hamas is demanding. A ceasefire is not just stopping shooting. Israel will have to redeploy its forces to safer locations, because just because Israel stopped shooting doesn't mean that Hamas would. And the Israeli soldiers are now sitting ducks in the middle of Gaza, moving south toward Khan Yunis. That would require a redeployment, a repositioning of the Israeli forces. Hamas will try to extend the release of hostages over a course of many days, with the hope that international pressure would build on Israel to end the war with Hamas still in power. That's a scenario that Israel will not allow to happen. This makes the negotiations more complex. There are 2 tracks of negotiations in Qatar and in Cairo. They are both at the highest levels. The head of the Mossad is running the Qatari track. The head of the Shin Bet is running the Egyptian track. This is very, very serious. And I am sure that Israel is exhausting every possibility to bring as many hostages home as soon as possible through a negotiated agreement.
Let me turn to your hunch. Do you think we are close to a deal at this point?
I would say the time is running out, so that we have to be close, because there is no way to bring all the hostages home, all these women, children, and elderly, without a deal with Hamas. And for that, Israel will pay a price, a painful price. But I believe that Israel, even this current government of Israel, and even Netanyahu, who is very weak, will be able to pay the price, because Israel has a moral responsibility to bring them home. Israel failed to protect them. Israel failed to defend our borders, and Israel has a moral responsibility to bring them home. The bigger question is going to be what's going to happen with all the young men and the young women who are considered soldiers and policemen by Hamas. I'm afraid that they will be left to the military operations of special forces, who will go in search and rescue missions, and hopefully they will be successful, but it's at great risk to the hostages and to the soldiers.
Do you think the Hamas leadership has still aspirations to regain control of Gaza?
From talks that I've had with people who know Sinwar personally, I asked, does Sinwar understand that his days are numbered, that he will soon be facing his God and have to justify everything that he's done? And people who know Sinwar have said to me, Sinwar doesn't believe that. He still believes that he will emerge from the tunnels at the end of this war, still in control of Gaza. He doesn't really care about the huge price that the Palestinian people in Gaza have paid for this war, because he believes he builds strength and power on the suffering of the Palestinian people. But he apparently still believes that he will survive and emerge as the leader of Gaza.
Do you think Hamas leadership, including Sinwar, would rather leave Gaza in some sort of another deal in the future? No way.
No way. This is not Beirut of 1982 with the PLO and Yasser Arafat boarding a ship to Tunisia. Sinwar will die fighting. He will not raise a white flag and he will not run away. This is not the man who he is, and this is not the leadership of Hamas. They will stay in the tunnels. They will fight. They will try to kill as many Israelis as possible. Hopefully they won't be successful at all, but they will face their death at the hands of Israel at the end of the war. In my mind, it's unimaginable that there's a scenario that exists that Hamas will be in control of Gaza when this war is over.
Dr. Gershon Baskin, I thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you.